All right, as usual, I have Sean laughing right before we go live. Welcome to the
You crack
official
jokes.
training camp edition of Under the Dome. We are 5 days into training camp. The Saints actually took a day off today. And my understanding is this has been an incredibly physical camp, which is exactly what Saints fans wanted to hear. They wanted to hear that the Saints have to deal with the heat and have an intense physical camp, uh, which is in their minds, a direct opposite of the Greenbrier. So we have two guests with us tonight. We'll talk to them in just a second. One went to training camp this past weekend, and the other has been at the Greenbrier training camp and can do a little comparison contrast between what he saw up there and what he's reading and hearing about the training camp in Metairie this week. But first, let's get introductions out the way. I'm Alan Ulrich, the host of Under the Dome, and my fellow co-host is Sean Williams. How you doing tonight, Sean?
I am spectacular. Welcome to the Under the Dome studios. I got a prop, so thank you, Jonathan. Uh, we want to say welcome to everyone. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Go ahead and pay the bills. We want to thank Van First Productions and invite everyone to go and show on iTunes and on YouTube. You guys have been doing that faithfully, and our numbers have continuously rose. Thank you guys so much for that. The we absolutely appreciate your support. This is just a couple of guys talking about football and the team that we love, the team that we've followed and supported our entire lives. The only point in that process it becomes more is because you guys make more. And thank you so much for that and being a part of our vision and what it is we want to do. Uh, I need to make an announcement. As you guys know, anyone that's followed us for any period of time, we have someone that's a very, very, very special friend of the show. A lady named Miss Donnie Lambert. Um, we found out a little over a week ago that Miss Donnie's cancer had returned. Uh, she is going to begin her next round of chemotherapy treatments Thursday on the third. I'm sorry, blanking here. There is something that we want you guys to be aware of. It's and I'm just going to read it verbatim so that I don't screw it up. Good morning, diehard family. One of the Houdat sisters in need of a blessing. I'm raffling off a 2017 Nike Adrian Peterson jersey to help out our member Donnie Lambert. She is in need of cancer treatment and care to and from the doctors. All tickets are $2, and the raffle will be live on Facebook Thursday, August the 10th, which is the day of the first Saints preseason game, uh, which is the Saints' first preseason game. Uh, for tickets or donations, inbox Don Lambert for her information, or uh, there's a few other people I'm going to mention momentarily to enter the drawing. Uh, we want to invite all of you. Miss Donnie is she's a piece of my heart. She's been a most diehard supporter of our show and everything that we have done from day one. Uh, I love her with all my heart. It's broke my heart to hear this news. You can contact either Donnie Lambert herself on Facebook or Connie Archer on Facebook as well for any and the promo for this raffle is posted on our Facebook page. If you'd like to refer to that for further information, or to the people that I mentioned a few moments ago, Donnie Lambert and Tony Archer. Please, any of you that can, we ask that you get involved to help this lady out. She's one of us, and as we all know from as far back as Katrina, Who Dat Nation takes care of its own, and I'll thank you ahead of time. Thank you guys so much for being loyal and faithful members of that nation. Without any further ado, I'm going to let Alan introduce the first guest because he's a tax write-off for Alan.
Not much longer.
And the other, I don't know if I should introduce.
Now it's just an expense.
Aside from Alan, myself, he's been on this show almost as much. But you go ahead and take care of guest number one, and I'll see to guest number two.
Okay, my expense is my son out there in Lafayette, Louisiana. He is getting ready to go back to school in a few weeks. Believe it or not, started his third year in college. Matt Ulrich, number 17 over there. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm doing just fine. I'm kind of ready for school to come back, actually.
You know, I saw pictures of Matt on the Saints
website.
When he was waiting in line, he's a lot taller than I thought he would be.
Oh yeah, he's a big monster.
Well, I remembered when you and I got together for breakfast this morning, and I thought, well, I guess that makes sense.
Oh yeah, he's built just like my brother. So yeah, if you ever want to see what my brother's like, look at Matt. Almost a dead ringer. Which I have some questions about that, which will show up. This comment is going to show up in the 3 things I learned about Under the Dome. You know, Alan questions the genealogy of his own son.
You know, I got to say this.
My wife keeps saying it's my curse.
I absolutely love what John Butler does.
I do too.
Man, that every Wednesday morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is pick up the page to see what he said. And hopefully soon we're going to be able to coordinate our schedules in such a way as to get John back on. Our next guest, my brother from another mother. I'm so proud of this guy. He writes for Canal Street Chronicles. I can't say enough about the job that Bob does in covering this team, especially given the fact that these days he has yet another priority added to the list. How's that new stage of fatherhood going there, Bob Rose?
New stage of father. Let's just say I'm a little bit older now. I think you followers of Under the Dome have met my daughters. 18 and 12-year-old Brianna and Isabella, and I forgot how much a newborn baby takes over your entire house, life, and every single thing you do.
Oh yes.
But little William Anthony Rose is 3 weeks old and 1 day today. He's sleeping in his crib right now, and his mom, Lauren Davenport, is sacked out beside me on the couch. So they're taking advantage of some nap time. But we have a little Who Dat to welcome to the nation now. And thank you guys.
Well, for those that don't know, as I said, it's kind of trivial. Most people use it as a punchline. when they say that so and so is brother from another mother. Bob is my little brother, and I love the guy to death, and I lovingly refer to young William as my nephew.
Well, as soon as we get the family down there, we can get together for some barbecues and some lunch. And yeah, Matt, you're only a couple years older than my daughter, so I hope you have a girlfriend.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Okay.
Actually,
well,
none of my kids are attached, which I'm very thankful for. I appreciate that.
Oh, that'll change. Hey,
Yes, it will, but I'm enjoying it now.
You want me to show you what that looks like? You see that reflection there?
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, you see this stuff here and here. Yeah, that comes from the first one showed up almost 22 years ago. So,
well, let's get right into
okay.
it real.
Absolutely.
As some of you may know, our man Matt made it to training camp on Saturday, correct?
Yeah, Saturday.
Okay. And we're just going to kind of quiz Matt on what he saw and what we can expect, and things like that. Matt, I want to question. I have the first question. Defense. I do believe that it's probably not too far out of the realm of logical to make a statement that just exactly how far the Saints are able to go this year, much like the past several years, is going to be directly dependent on exactly what that defense can accomplish. As an entire unit, what did you see out there that gives you reason to be optimistic towards the defense?
Well, defensively, about the defensive line. I feel like Sean Payton really is high on David Onyemata. I saw him a lot run with the ones, and I'm not seeing Tyler Davidson subbing at sometimes when they want to run a run play. Then Onyemata comes in on sub packages. No, even when they're running their base packages, Onyemata is lining up right next to Jordan and Rankins, pass rushing, run stuffing. So I think Onyemata could really be kind of a hidden gem or really a rising star for that defensive line. But one position I was definitely trying to pay most attention to was our linebacking core. On Saturday, instead of having Teo, Klein, I think Anthony, you had Klein at Sam, Robertson at Mike, and Anzalone playing the Will. And I also saw sometimes, Klein and Anzalone would switch. He would be at Will, Anzalone would be at Sam. And I thought the linebacking core did look really well with those three out there. It looked faster, it looked like there was more suddenness, especially with Anzalone. There was one play that they do have on YouTube, they have recorded, was I think a little pass play screen to Peterson. You see Anzalone charge in and tackle Peterson. He doesn't finish it because it was kind of halfway through where you can give him a good hit but not really tackle. And it looked like a linebacker that has great instincts and will go full speed at any player in front of him. Secondary wise, I mean, it's more of the one-on-ones with wide receivers and DBs. Lattimore had his high moments when he was playing man coverage, and he really struggles in zone coverage. But that was kind of expected with the kind of defense run at Ohio State. Bro looked okay. Williams did have an on and off kind of thing, but it was he had some good plays and some bad plays.
Okay. Alan?
What? Okay. Well, Bob, what is your take on what you've seen or heard or read about the Saints defense so far or the rookie class so far in this training camp?
Matt already mentioned it a little bit about how much more athletic this linebacking core is. And I mean, on paper, this is easily the most athletic linebacking core we've seen from the Saints in quite some time. I like Anzalone from Florida. I think we all did when when the Saints drafted him. He's a heck of an athlete. Klein coming in from Carolina is a good sideline to sideline guy. We already know what Robertson can do. Stephon Anthony, for his lack of play recognition, is still one whale of an athlete too. So I'm just like Matt. I'm excited to see what this linebacking core can do this year. A lot of things I've been hearing from camp and a little bit of live stream that I've been able to see. The defensive backfield, especially at cornerback, and we all know that there's going to be one heck of a battle at cornerback, especially beyond the starting two, to fill out that roster. And it seems like all these guys are really working hard to compete. You would expect Lattimore, just like you said, Matt, you would expect Lattimore as a rookie, especially in coverage, to have some slow reaction plays. And Matt, I wanted to ask you anyway. I've been hearing that Bro seems a little bit off. What are you seeing from Delvin, as far as especially man-to-man coverage?
It was kind of hard for me to see everything because I was probably closest to where everyone was walking in, and a lot of the plays that they were doing was towards the other end when it was closer to I want to say that Budweiser building. My dad will know what I'm talking about because we.
Yeah, it's a beer distributor. It's a beer distributorship. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's over by the church. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The way the Saints. For those who don't know, Saints training camp on Airline Highway. On one side of the stadium, one side of the training facility is a baseball stadium. That's the AAA baseball affiliate. On the other side, there's a beer distribution and a church right next to each other, only in Louisiana. But anyway, so your whole perspective, if anybody remembers the NFL highlights film when Jim Haslett was first hired, he said they didn't know where north and south was. All they knew is the stadium's over here, and over there's a church, and the sun comes up over the church. That's all they knew, because they couldn't figure anything else the way the city sits and everything else like that. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So he was seeing things perspective. There's two fields. There's one field that goes long ways in front of the facility, and then there's a second field that goes towards the back from the highway to the indoor practice facility. So if they have anything on that side where the brewery and the church, the beer distribution center is, and the church, it's harder to see. So when you got 90 guys out there, they've got individual drills all over the field. So what he basically could see probably was probably the 7-on-7 drills. Is that what you were seeing?
Probably close. They had both 7-on-7, even a few 11-on-11.
Okay.
They were very close to a scrimmage. Just no hard hitting. It was kind of half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing I'm noticing about this training camp so far, and in fact, I saw a story about this today. What you're seeing right now is the fingerprints of Jeff Ireland on this team. Who are the players that are making this team or having an impact on this team? Well, it's two draft classes, 2016 and this one. You're seeing all the guys in 2016 draft class on this team, whether it's Michael Thomas, Von Bell, and David Onyemata, all having a role on this team, and they're counted on very heavily as starters. Then you look at this class, the 2017 class, which it's only a week into camp. We can't, like Bill Parcells said, put away the anointing oil. But a week into camp, who are the guys that are making an impact on this team? we're seeing everybody, every single player in this draft class, even Muhammad, having a role or having some sort of impact in this draft class. The 2015 draft class, which was the last Ryan Pace / a little bit of Jeff Ireland in there, that class, we're looking at those guys as this is their last shot to do something. Yeah. Kahaka and Pace. Pete, we're counting on him, but Anthony. Those three guys are really, and PJ Williams. I keep forgetting about PJ Williams and Damian Swan, but PJ Williams. Those guys, except for Pete, we're trying to see where they fit on this team and if they're going to have a role in this team. So we have seen now Jeff Ireland upgrading their talent level on this team. And not only are those guys expected to have a role, but an impact. So I think that's really interesting from the standpoint of, how the fans have been beating up Mickey Loomis forever about the lack of talent. It seems to be that these last two draft classes, 2016, 2017, are really reshaping this roster and making this a much better roster. How do you guys all see that?
I agree completely because I think that there's a movement. Maybe it's not as much or as little as other teams in the league, but I think that there is a movement of a conscious effort, if you will, for this roster to go younger. And it hasn't.
Oh, yeah.
It's been somewhat subtle before now. If you look around, you got your Drew Brees, you got your Zach Strief, you got your, I guess you could even, in that category, you could put Cam Jordan. But you look around at the age and the experience with the rest of the roster, and it's just, it's not even nearly as advanced as those three guys.
It's not only that. Look at the free agents that they've signed in the last couple years, too. They're not going – I mean, there are a couple exceptions, of course, but they're not going after the high-priced, big-name guys like they were. They're bringing in instead younger, more complementary pieces like Robertson and other names escape me, but like Craig Robertson and players like that, hungrier players that are coming into their prime that are maybe late 20s instead of early and mid 30s kind of guys, like we saw with Jarius Byrd, like we saw with Donnell Ellerbe. So as a whole, it's still, even the free agency moves, signing Larry Warford and AJ Klein this past season. We don't know what they're going to give us yet, but those are the same kind of guys. Those are guys that are just coming into their prime. So even the free agency moves are going a lot younger.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm not about to anoint this this draft class the best draft class since 2006 because they still have to prove it on the field. And, this time next week, the preseason. When's the first preseason game?
Thursday, the 10th.
It's Thursday? Yeah. Okay. So
our first one is the first one.
Yeah, Hall of Fame is Thursday, yeah.
Tomorrow in the Hall of Fame game, which will be Dallas and
Arizona, is it?
Shit, I thought it was San Diego.
Shoot, I can't remember.
I'm sorry. San Diego doesn't exist anymore. The Chargers. I thought it was the Chargers. But regardless.
The Blue Bolts.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, after the first preseason games in the books, we might be throwing all this out the window and talking about how how can we avoid it? How can we avoid an 8-8 season? But because I can remember
Cowboys and the Cardinals. I was right.
Cowboys and the Cardinals. Okay. But I was going to say, this time last year, we were kind of excited and optimistic about the Saints training camp as well. I just find it interesting that we're really seeing a lot of the new faces stepping up and having a role in this team. Not so much the guys from last year who were hurt and counting on them to make a comeback. We're paying a lot closer attention to all these new people. And David Onyemata is a great example. We've got two guys in camp who seem to be having outstanding camps. David Onyemata is one of them, and the other one is Brandon Coleman, the one guy that everyone kind of wrote off, especially after the draft when the Saints signed the LSU receiver as a undrafted free agent. People were kind of saying that, this is Coleman's last shot. He probably isn't going to make the team. And if anything, he's proving he's challenging Ted Ginn for that number 3 spot.
Well, over the past several years, at this point in time in the process, as camp is beginning, it's a time-honored tradition, if you will, of talking about the impending demise of Coleman, and yet still here it is all these years later. Guys like Toon are gone. All these other guys that we've drafted are gone. Brandon Coleman still remains. But that being said, I do feel it necessary to say that this could be a make or break point in the process for Brandon Coleman.
Sure.
He's going to have to take it next level or be left behind, because you have players like Ted Ginn Jr., you have players like Tommy Lee Lewis that now is not a wide rookie out there seeing all this for the first time. He's got a year under his belt a year's experience, under his belt to refer to and to age him, so to speak, I guess. Brandon Coleman all this time has been the less of all the evil of the undrafted free agent pool that we assembled. But at the same time, I believe that it's fair to say, and we were all discussing this before going on the air. I don't think that it's at all a stretch to say that the New Orleans Saints wide receiver core a year ago was the best in the league. You had Brandon Cooks that was over 1,000 yards. You had Michael Thomas that was over 1,000 yards. You had Willie Snead that was within, I believe, 200 yards of reaching that 1,000-yard receiving mark. You had a quarterback and Drew Brees that for the 175th time apparently in his career, he's gone over 5,000 yards passing in the season. I don't think that it's a stretch at all to say that New Orleans Saints wide receiver core, and maybe even go so far as to say, statistically speaking, their receiver core a year ago was the best in the NFL. I think that it's going to be interesting to see with the departure of Brandon Cooks, see exactly where that dynamic goes in this season with all the movement of players. You've got Cooks gone. You've got Thomas stepping up into that, lack of a better word, that Cooks role. You've got Snead possibly stepping into that role that was Thomas a year ago. Got Brandon Coleman. You've got Tommy Lee Lewis. You've got Sean Lattman. You've got all these different guys, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how all of this plays out now.
Well, Bob, why don't you go ahead and chime in on this one?
We Canal Street Chronicles. We just released last week. We did our offensive positional previews, and Sean, we touched on exactly some of the things that you were talking about when we did our wide receivers. The production that Brandon Cooks gave to this team, especially over the last 2 seasons, that's not going to be easily replaced. And based off of the pieces on this roster, I don't see one person that's going to do it. Anybody that thinks that Ted Ginn Jr. was signed to replace the production of Brandon Cooks, you're fooling yourself, and I'd urge you to lighten up on the meds a little bit. This receiving core is going to go how Mike Thomas and Willie Snead go. They're by far heads and shoulders numbers 1 and 2. And I'd put them up against the starting 2 of any other team in the NFL. The battle for number 3, though, is it going to begin? I know Coleman's on fire, and I've always been a big fan of him. 2 seasons ago, when we were down in Greenbrier, or I guess you're as far as you guys go up in Greenbrier, I got a chance to meet Coleman, and I mean he followed Colston around like a shadow. Exactly what you'd want a young wide receiver to do. Coleman put forth great effort. He has some nice moves and one-on-one coverage. His problem always has been he fights the ball. It's a fundamental thing. And one of the Alan, you touched on this before we went on air. Talked about Curtis back as the Saints receivers coach. Probably has a bigger influence over Coleman than probably even the quarterback Drew Brees. Coleman seemed to be really frustrated at last year's camp, and it affected his effort. Frankly, I was a little bit surprised he even made the team coming out of last year, but he ended the season well. They didn't need him to step up into a number 3 role like I think this team does now. Because, again, to me, is nothing more than a deep threat and a punt returner. If you're playing a dangerous game, if you're expecting this guy to be a consistent, reliable receiver, you use Higgins Jr. to top off, and you use Michael Thomas, you use Willie Snead. To a lesser extent, you're going to use Brandon Coleman to run every other route on the tree. I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree, Matt. You've seen Brandon close up in some of these practices. Do you think he's ready to take that next step forward?
Well, absolutely. He looks, for one, faster and just overall better. During one-on-ones between wide receiver and DBs, he just destroys PJ Williams. He's even had a couple reps against Delvin Breaux where he did pretty well. I mean, I think this is a guy that he's going to progress very, very well, and maybe even beat out Ted Ginn for some serious snaps.
A couple of years ago, I got into an argument with a Saints fan online, basically who was obsessed with speed. It's all about speed, and when support there back then, because I was saying speed, you've got to have somebody who can move the chains. And in my view, I think if you can get Thomas and Snead and Ginn to kind of run those clear out routes, Coleman is going to be a matchup problem for most linebackers, and not the top end corners, but the typical number 2, number 3 corners that are out there, because of his size and his wingspan as far as a receiver. So, that is going to be an ideal possession third down receiver. I think you're going to see a little bit more out of Snead as a number 2 guy.
Yeah.
But I think with Coleman coming in under Curtis Johnson's coaching, I think he is going to be that number 3 guy. I think you're going to see again come in on packages as the quote unquote number 3 slot guy, whatever. But mainly, he is going to be there to stretch the defense and to play special teams. He's not going in there as a guy you're going to see take, if the Saints run 60 plays offensively, he might be in 15 plays like that. You're going to see Coleman out there a lot more. And whoever that number 5 receiver is, and let's just say for the sake of argument, it's Corey Fuller, it's going to have to be somebody else who can play special teams. And that guy is going to be alternating sometimes. If he can be pretty good on special teams, alternating somebody who's going to be inactive depending on the matchup. Kind of leads me to the next thing I want to go into. the impact they're having on this team. We talked about CJ impact on Coleman. I alluded to Mike Nolan's impact on Stephon Anthony, but on Yamada, the new defensive, I just had to look him up for a second, the new defensive line coach, Ryan Nielsen, is he having an impact on Yamada? I think he is. I think it's helping him take that next step to kind of lessen the impact that we have of losing Fairley. And then the special teams coach. We haven't even talked about him because I don't like talking about kickers, but the special teams coach is having, it seems to be a tremendous impact on Will Lutz, because I don't think Will Lutz, slow down. I don't think Will Lutz has missed a kick all training camp. Yeah. You try saying that fast.
Yeah. But also on Saturday, they were running a lot of special teams drills, including punt coverage drills. And I think they ran probably those drills maybe 3 times in between interventions. It was something remarkable.
Sean's still laughing about me trying to stumble over Will Lutz's name. I almost called him Will Putz, so that's where I am,
I got to take my glasses off. I'm sorry. We've kind of kickstarted this already into the second half of the show. The discussion on the Saints, what amounts to the Under the Dome podcast camp timer we began last week with defense. This week we are getting into the offense, and I want to preface this by saying there are an astronomical number of narrative storylines, however you want to look at it or deem that are absolutely relevant going to this training camp. You have, oh my God, all the receivers, Adrian Peterson, Mark Ingram, Ryan Ramczyk, Pete, the whole shooting match, so to speak. But we've tried to narrow it down to just a few of the more important storylines going into this camp, and covered a few here already with the wide receiver core. But I want to shift gears a little bit, and perhaps Matt can weigh in on this, having been at practice the other day. With the quarterback position, obviously the New Orleans Saints have no quarterback issues as long as number 9 is lucid and upright. But I want to ask you guys, just kind of, I guess there's no right answer, maybe just a theoretical question, but what's going to be the difference between being under center at number 2 and Luke McCown the past couple of years being in the backup role? Is that going to present any change whatsoever in this?
No. You go ahead. No, I don't. You sure, Matt?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
All right, man. Thanks. No, I don't. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. Drew knows Chase. They've worked together before. He had a close relationship with him then before Chase is a free agent, and everybody knows that he was close. Look, the bottom line is that Drew Brees goes on, this team is done. I don't care whether you put Chase Daniel in. I don't care whether you put Luke McCown in. The backup quarterback role for the New Orleans Saints right now is not a developmental role. It's an extra pair of eyes for Drew and Coach Payton on the field. And I think both of these guys accomplished that feat well. So I don't think that either guy, they're almost interchangeable. I don't think it makes a bit of difference who's there for that extra set of eyes.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Bob. I mean, with Chase Daniel, you got a younger guy. You got someone that maybe if Drew does decide to kick the bucket next year, but let's just
retire.
It's not trying to scare you guys just yet, but you got a younger guy that could theoretically take over the helms even for just a year or two until you can get a different younger guy to take over.
Well, I don't look at. I don't agree with that so much as I don't think that Chase Daniel, sorry, is anything more than like what Bob said, just another set of eyes. If the worst case scenario happens and Drew gets hurt and misses several games of the season, I mean, Chase can carry you to finish a game. He might be able to start a game or two, but he's not Drew Brees. He's not going to be Drew Brees. He's not even really going to be any kind of long-term solution as a starter. But Drew, like Tom Brady, is still playing. I know Sean just cringed at that name, but is still playing at an elite level at nearly 40 years old. He has not shown any sign in camp of age at all. I think he was finished second in the conditioning run. So I mean, barring again any kind of major injury, it's Drew all the way, and Chase is just there, just as his caddy. He's not going to be there for anything other than, let's hope nothing happens. But if something happens to Drew, I can come in and finish a game. And if I have to start a game, I could start a game, and the season's not lost. But if you're going to rely on me for 8, 10, 12 games, we're fighting for a top 5 draft pick if that was the case. Sean, your opinion on Chase or the quarterback situation?
I don't think that. I think that the relevance of and this sounds simplistic, and I understand that, the relevance of backup is really kick in until Drew's slow to get up. Drew doesn't get up, as we saw 2 years ago in the Tampa Bay game when Drew got hurt and missed his first start in forever. And I think it all goes back to that age-old saying, the best backup quarterback that you have is the one that you never see play.
Right.
And exactly what you'll get out of Chase Daniel. You're going to get the same kind of performance. He can be somebody who can come in and maybe start a game, but you got to get Drew back out there if you want to win.
You had Luke McCown, who is a former starter in this league. But, and don't get me wrong, Louisiana Tech graduate, love the guy, the whole 9 yards, but we have to be fair, we have to be accurate, and we have to look at this for what it is. There's a reason that Luke McCown is no longer a starter in this league.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason that Luke McCown is not looked at in the same light as Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. There's a reason for all that. The only, in terms of experience, what you're bringing to the table, the only difference that I see right now in the portfolio of Luke McCown and Chase Daniel is Chase Daniel is young.
Yeah.
And really, there's nothing that is substantial enough to make one greater than the other beyond that age thing.
Matt, when you were there Saturday, were they in pads? Did they have pads on?
They did. They were in pads, but they were. But like I said, they weren't in full They weren't full tackling. I think Monday was the first day where they could do live tackling, all that kind of stuff. It was half and half.
Okay, because my understanding, this leads us to the next point we have. Adrian Peterson came out there and kind of pinballed off of a couple guys and got the crowd all pumped up because he blew through that hole like the Adrian Peterson of 2007 and 2013, and just kind of bounced off a couple of potential tackles and basically for a practice took it to the house. How does Peterson look?
From what I saw, he looks great. I wouldn't say he looks like the old Adrian Peterson because, like I said, it was kind of half and half. But there is reason for optimism as not only a good backup, but also someone that you can rotate regularly with Ingram to get some effective runs. And a lot.
I mean, I've said. Oh, go ahead.
And if you want another reason for optimism, a lot of runs came at the left side where Ramczyk was the left tackle and you have Pete as the guard. So if you want that kind of optimism with Ramczyk, there you go.
That's awesome because, like we said before, I said all these rookies and all these second-year guys are guys not only they're expecting to play a role but to start. Yeah. So that's great to hear. And this is why I'm saying this, and I'm hoping that I'm right about this. In 2009, when the Saints went to the Super Bowl, the best part of the running game with that in that year was Pierre Thomas and Reggie Bush kind of played the whole first half. Then in the second half, Mike Bell came in there, fresh legs, and you saw that especially against Miami. Miami was tired because Drew Brees had him running all over the place with him throwing the ball. And then here comes Mike Bell late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, and he's just running people over. I think his first run was for like 25 yards, had another one for 15 yards. This is for the Adrian Peterson fans. In the ideal world, I'm hoping Ingram gets enough carries in that first half, kind of wear that defense out. We build that big lead up like we did in 2009, 2011. And then here comes future Hall of Famer Adrian Peterson with fresh legs late in the third, early fourth quarter. Who wants to try and tackle Peterson at that point in the game? That's when you consult the game play. Everyone knows you're going to run the ball. And Coon's in front of Peterson, and here we go, off the left side, off the right side, Peterson just pounding a defense that's tired, that's worn out. They're going to close the game up with that. That is the ideal scenario. So, where does Alvin Kamara fit in this offense? I have an idea, but I want to hear from you guys.
Bob, what do you think?
Bob, Matt?
Alvin Kamara is Sean Payton's number one toy.
Yeah.
That's why he got him. That's why he targeted him. If this kid picks up the playbook fast, and we've been hearing that he's a good study, and he's going to hit the ground running for that, if you'll pardon the pun. Kamara is going to be sometimes on first down, sometimes in the same backfield with either Ingram or Peterson, depending on the reps that they give those guys, and I know we'll talk about that in a minute. Kamara will almost certainly be your third down back. He'll be split wide. We're going to see Kamara probably get 20 to 25 snaps. I'm not saying touches, but snaps. And we're going to see him used in every bit of the way that Reggie Bush was used, that Darren Sproles was used, that Pierre Thomas was used. And like I said, this is Sean Payton's toy. He has to be grinning ear to ear since draft day.
Matt, I think, went to bed with a picture of Alvin Kamara every night next to his pillow because I'm telling you, on draft day, my phone blew up the minute because for some reason, he was in a time zone that was ahead of everyone else. So he knew who was getting drafted before they announced it, before it showed up on Twitter, anywhere. So I got on my phone in second coming font, Kamara to the Saints from my son. So, he was like, yes. So, Matt, Was he what you expected when you saw him out there? Because I know you were watching.
Absolutely. Well, receiving it was, I saw that kind of elusiveness and shiftiness that I did see at Tennessee. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to really meet him face to face and all that kind of stuff because I think he was one of the early ones that went inside the locker room and probably had an interview or something. I don't know, but yeah,
Frankie
receiving
Valli's
wise,
song "My Eyes Adored You" was probably playing in the background when he saw you, and was just like, "No, I'm gonna have to go in. I don't really need this right now. Thank you."
I want to see.
You didn't know what to say to that, do you?
The love of a father.
Yeah.
I wanted to see more running attempts from Kamara, though. I wanted to see him more as a running back. Sean Payne did say in one of his press conferences that Kamara does remind him of a lot of Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
And there were even times I saw Kamara split out wide in an empty set. You had Thomas, Snead, it was either Ginn or Coleman. They switched out. And then you had Kamara and Fleener in an empty set. I'm like, I've seen that before. I can see the Saints run out more and more, especially against a team like Carolina or even Tampa, trying to test their linebacking core.
Well, and Fleener, I think, is somebody who's going to definitely benefit from having a back like Kamara. If Kamara turns out to be another Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles, even Marshall Faulk, who I don't think he's a Marshall Faulk kind of back, but if he has that kind of impact in the Saints, it'd be incredible because that's what Graham needed. Somebody coming out the backfield to get the linebackers' attention so Grant can get those one-on-one matchups with the safeties or a smaller corner or whatever and take advantage of the seam routes. And again, you've got Coleman, you've got Thomas, you've got these weapons, and that's what made Atlanta so dangerous last year was the multiple weapons and the multiple ways they can attack you. And we're seeing that kind of offense, at least on paper, appearing in New Orleans again. And if we can just get our defense to get, this is what I was beating up on last week, get our defense to get a few turnovers, get Drew some extra possessions with those weapons, we can win games with a 20th ranked defense, a 21st ranked defense, as long as we're in the top 5 on turnovers and we're still a top 3 offense and so forth.
I wanted to get you guys' opinion on something about Kamara, though. And Matt, I think you and I talked a little bit about it after draft day. I almost don't like the Kamara comparisons to Sproles because Sproles was almost a gadget play. One heck of a receiver coming out of the backfield, and like you said, Alan, impossible for linebackers. Sproles was in the game. He was the only running back in the game. You knew they probably weren't going to run the ball. Kamara is a more accomplished running back, is he not?
Yeah, the problem with Sproles is that you couldn't always use him as a running back. You couldn't use him for those plays up the gut. I mean, at best, you probably had those pitch plays. And even if you did have those runs up the gut, it was usually like a draw or something just to catch him off base. With Kamara, he's not just another guy you can split out wide and just use as wide receiver. You have him as a running back. He's just as effective, in my opinion, as a running back as a wide receiver.
So, Sean, would you say then that Kamara is probably more of a hybrid of Reggie Bush and Pierre, more so than a Sproles kind of back? Somebody who's going to be probably much more effective in the screen game again, and somebody who is just going to be a quicker version of Thomas?
Yeah. Some of that I agree with. Some of it I disagree with. My initial reaction when the Saints drafted Kamara was all this time, all these years, and Alan, you know as well as I do, these Saints fans, every time that the running game was deemed inefficient to have won a game, Sproles. They've wanted a Darren Sproles. And my initial reaction when we drafted Kamara was, this is the most Darren Sproles that the New Orleans Saints have been since number 43 left the building. I think that how successful he is going to be directly dependent on how he's used. I think that he can be more than a Darren Sproles, he can be more than a Pierre Thomas, strictly from the standpoint of Sean Payton being more experienced now in exactly how to use him in that offense. Now, that's with the possible caveat that, as we've all seen, Sean Payton doesn't use the experience that he's gained, because, you know, there's times when I've seen him run the swinging pass with a Travaris Dett or a Mark Ingram, and, you know, long story short, it's not Pierre Thomas. Nobody ran that swing pass for the New Orleans Saints like Pierre Thomas. I think that Kamara can become an integral part of this offense if used in the. That's going to be a result of Drew Brees, Willie Snead, Michael Thomas, Kobe Fleener, Mark Ingram, and or AP all being on the same page and it working that way.
And Sean, when you were talking about the swing pass, I know exactly what you're talking about. Every time I see it with Cadet or Ingram, they get the pass, and then once they see someone, they want to try and, you know, make them look silly, and it just doesn't work. I'm just like, just hunt forward. But with hopefully Kamara, and what I did see with Pierre back then was you take one simple cut and just fall forward and pick up extra yardage. That's what made it more effective. They don't try and dance. They don't try and make them look silly. They just get as much yardage as much as they can.
You know, it's funny that they used to describe Pierre Thomas used to describe himself as an ugly runner, but I was always amazed at how he could, almost like John Madden here, but he could make himself small. He create a small area of his body where the guy would try and make the tackle, and he just kind of slide off of the tackle and fall forward and gain 3 or 4 more yards. Here's a guy who's got Pierre, you know, it's 3rd and 10. He's got Pierre dead to rights at 5 yards, and Pierre could slide and fall forward for another, not just the other 5, but maybe pick up 7. So, you know, he got a first down on a little dump-off pass, which should have been a give-up play. And I think if Kamara can do that again, my offensive philosophy, it's about moving the chains, keeping the drive going. It doesn't have big plays every time, but just consistently converting 3rd downs into first downs. You know, that is the key to winning football on offense. So
I agree, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
There's a point to make here. If you look, this is a dead horse that I have beat since January. If you look back on the season of 2016, 7-9 season, and 7 of 9 lost by a touchdown or less. You're talking about one possession, an extra first down, one touchdown on a drive that culminated in a field goal. When you're talking about logistics being the deciding factor of a game, not to mention 7 games over the stretch of a season, things like this are going to be important.
Yep, exactly. Certainly is one last area we haven't talked a whole heck of a lot about. Kind of wrap up tonight. The offensive line. We've already hinted, you know, that Ramchak is running with the ones. You know, we haven't heard much about Pete at all. I think only a couple of things about me. You know, Pete got beat on one play. Next play, he came right back and dominated. The center issue, we've got some stuff going on with the center with the inability to snap, which is critical in our offense. Jack Allen in particular has had a lot of problems with that. We had a guy we brought in from San Diego, Orlando Franklin. He had a weekend of this lovely weather we have in Louisiana with hot humidity, and it was enough for him to say, I came from San Diego where it's beautiful, 60 degrees, 70 degrees every day, and I'm practicing in a soup? I don't think so, and I'm out of here. So the Saints let him go.
Reminds me of my 5-year-old son in the day that they had their last day of school. The principal of the school comes to my little 5-year-old pre-K son, Drew, and says, Drew, baby, if you want to stay for the rest of the day with the class and just stay here, you can do that. Or you can go with your daddy. This is after their big commitment program, No. She said, if you want to go with your dad, you can do that. He looked at her and he looked at me and he looked back at her and he said, screw this, I'm out of here.
But we haven't heard much.
You've met Drews. You kind of get a picture of that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But, I mean, we haven't really heard much about, Zach Streif or the lineman we got from the Lions, whose name escaped me right now.
Warford.
Warford, yeah. Yeah, we haven't heard a whole heck of a lot, but I think Monday was the first day they really went at it in pads. So I'm sure come tomorrow and the rest of this week and this weekend, we'll probably hear a lot more about the offensive and defensive lines. How do you guys feel about the offensive line right now?
Let me know when it's preseason. That's all I'm going to say. Let me know when it's preseason.
Okay. Bob?
I'm nervous. Just like Matt said, and you alluded to, Alan, it's the way the preseason camps go now. The old Oklahoma drills are a thing of the past. That's when you could get a real good feel about, all right, this guy has a mean streak to him. He's going to fight. He's going to claw. He's going to scratch on either side of the line. You don't see that anymore. Really the best indicator of an offensive lineman would be, in my opinion, at this stage, is how is their footwork? How are they moving? Do they seem to be lost on especially the drop back passes, the 7-on-7, stuff like that? When they strap on the chin straps for the first time, August 10th, I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out. I'm not too awful worried about center. I don't expect Jack Allen to make the team. Shit, hell, he might not make it to August 10th if these errant snaps continue. But we're pretty sure that we're going to get Max Unger back. Kelamete, I think, is still on PUP, if I'm not mistaken, on the PUP list. He could fill in a center when he comes back if he had to. Pete, I remember talking with you guys a lot about this as last season ended. Pete's best fit is at guard. They drafted Ramczyk for a reason. A rookie left tackle scares me, but the kid seems to have some nice ability. We won't know until the preseason games start. Warford and Streif on the right side, they should be solid. They'll take a couple games to get their teamwork together so that way they know what they're doing a little bit. But I'm more confident on that side of the line. I'm waiting to see approach on the left side right now.
Yeah.
Yes. They also had when they had wide receiver and DB drills, on the other side they had O-line versus D-line, and you really couldn't see anything, even if you were sitting right next to them, because you had players basically circle around that not even the media could even see. So basically, everyone was watching wide receivers versus DB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, that's going to be the most critical part of preseason to watch, is how this offensive line goes. And I think we're going to have some problems at center, especially in the first couple of preseason games. I saw that Unger was stretching on the sidelines. He's not. He's at camp. It's not like where we were playing Where's Waldo with Jerry Bird when he was hurt. We do know where these guys are. They're at practice. But I'm worried they might have to hurry Unger in sooner than they should. Problems at center. I know Nick Mangold is still out there. He's recovering from his own personal, injuries from last year with the Jets. But the problem you have with any center the Saints will be looking at, that guy is coming in knowing that you only need it for a couple of games, maybe. Unger is going to be there, and once Unger's there, he's starting. So it's kind of like, are we going to have to sit and watch punishment on the offensive line for preseason with the idea, like last year, as soon as Unger comes in, he's just like Zach Street. You put him in there, and boom, the offensive line suddenly is a Pro Bowl fortress for Drew Brees. I don't know if I want to go through that. I'd like to see kind of like what we saw in 2009 when the Saints went to play Oakland, the Raiders in Oakland that season, that preseason game. That's when you really saw, hey, this team's got something special about it. Because even though you had Jamarcus Russell at quarterback for the Raiders, and the Raiders were who the Raiders were, it was beyond the Raiders being pathetic. You saw that Saints offense, that machine starting to roll. And this is what was coming. And I think they need that in the preseason. I think they need to get that feeling that, hey, and we're ready to roll. And we're going to start rolling over some people in the preseason, with the starters out there, the dogs. But we want to see, Drew come in and is 5 for 5 with a touchdown opening drive, in that first preseason game. In that third preseason game, he's already racked up 35 points, when he's ready to go in after that series in the third quarter. That's what we need to see as fans. And I think the Saints defense and offense needs to experience that kind of success too. So they come into that first game against Minnesota, because they don't play again until Monday night. But they come into that first game in that stadium, which rocking. It's Monday night, first game of the season. We just go in there and smoke the Vikings. Yeah. I think that's what we need to see. So
I'm also curious how the DB score goes against a middle of a road quarterback like Sam Bradford. If they can take advantage of him, keep him realistically under 300, because no doubt he's probably going to rack up garbage tier yards late in the fourth quarter if it goes away. I just want
to slap the crap out of him in the first half. I want him to have, if he's not getting 5 sacks, I want to see him on his ass a bunch after he lets the ball go, where, we're coming all day kind of thing, and when he's nervous, he's looking at the rush instead of thinking about what he should be doing and getting rid of the ball. I mean, that's what you need.
Yeah, it's like I said, how we're dealing with a middle of a road quarterback as Sam Bradford. Yeah. If we're taking advantage of him, I got hope for not only this defense but also this team going on in the season and probably making the postseason, and we'll see what goes from there. But if he's getting close to 300 and it's almost the fourth quarter, there's more reasons for concern.
Yeah.
I may be accused of being naive, but I look back a year ago and the overwhelming narrative basically going through the entire preseason process, the overwhelming narrative was, oh my God, our offensive line sucks. We're going to get Drew killed in the first 2 weeks of the season, the whole 9 yards. And fast forward to the week after the season's over, and our offensive line stood up probably better than any situational unit of the entire roster. All that being said, I'm not particularly concerned with the offensive line. I know that we had issues with injuries to our center and our blind side tackle, which in this case is tackle Teron Armstead. I know that starting a rookie offensive tackle on your quarterback's blind side is not exactly an ideal position. I take some solace in the fact that this is going to be the natural position that Ramczyk played at Wisconsin and being left tackle. I think that's definitely a bonus. I think that Ron Armstead having his surgery when he did, giving plenty of, if you want to call it that, preemptive time for whoever it was going to be to step into that role, be that Khalid Barnes, Ryan Ramczyk, just whoever. You allowed plenty of time, there is my point, to have someone to come in and acclimate themselves to their job.
Yep.
I'm not particularly concerned with the offensive line until kind of like being a cancer patient. Don't ever worry until it's time to worry, and that's kind of the same approach that I take to this as well. I'm not. All indications and reports seem to point towards Max Unger being, at the very latest, being back into the starting lineup by week 1, the trip to Minnesota. I think that's the best possible thing that you could hope for. Teron Armstead, best case scenario, I honestly believe Teron comes back for a late season / playoff stretch where he becomes an integral part of what the Saints defense is trying to do. Worst case scenario, you've got a rookie that you're going to throw into the fire and take his lumps, which we did a year ago with Pete, and that didn't turn out the worst of all.
Yeah. Yeah. You going to say something, Bob? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I apologize. I agree with what you said, Sean. And again, both of you guys said Ramczyk's natural position is left tackle. He's going to take his lumps. I feel confident in this offensive coaching staff that they are aware of that, and they're going to probably shift their protection to be a little bit stronger on that side, to give Ramczyk maybe a double team block, slide Kuhn over, maybe keep a tight end in a little bit more often, things like that. Because Lord knows, we know that this team has the weapons to still be effective at various levels of the field if they do keep a blocker in. And Ramczyk does have a nice skill set. When I said I was nervous about the offensive line, that I guess I should explain myself a little bit better. I actually like the pieces that are in place. I just know it's going to take. We all know it's going to take time for this to gel. A rookie left tackle, a new right guard. I mean, Jari Evans, Saints Hall of Famer to be sure at some point. But, there was a lot of years of stability at right guard where you didn't have to worry about a thing. Warford has some very nice skills, but again, it's going to take some time for him to gel. Unger when he comes back, and with Streif on his other side. He's in place, just nervous early.
It's all the things that we talked about in the beginning of the show. We're seeing a lot of first and second year players that we're relying on to have impacts on this team, plus the free agents that we brought in this year. Klein, Warford, even Manti Te'o. We're kind of counting. It looks like we're counting on him to do something for us this year. Ted Ginn Jr. And that doesn't count. The second-year players like Will Lutz and these guys. We're counting on to really carry this team. So we have a very young team. We're all nervous because we not to expect out of this team. this is a team that can actually do something, get back to the playoffs, have that winning season, challenge the Falcons for a division title. But with young players, you're not sure what you're going to get. So we can just as easily finish 7-9 if things don't go right, which is why I said I think it's so important that this team, more so than any other year, because we've talked about that kind of thing before, about starting hot and how that translates into better seasons for the Saints. This year, more than any other year, we really need to start. It has to start with the preseason games, but we have to win. Even though they're meaningless, we have to win the preseason games.
Yeah.
We have to show new pieces that we have, not only are good players, but they work well together. And if that happens, then we're going to have a much better season, I think, in the long run than we will if we're going to take 6 to 7 weeks of the regular season before this team starts looking like the team that it should be on paper. Guys, we have gone over the limit as always. Of course, the show next week, we have a few guests on that one too. Sean's going to want to preview that one a bit. Like I said, it'll be the week of the first preseason, 2 weeks before we can actually break down any of the actual play. But Sean, what's next week going to be about? Tease the show.
Next week, we are going to, after a lot of behind-the-scenes work, we're welcoming in a very special guest. And if you guys are not familiar with his film dissection, you need to go check out the Reverend Deuce Wyndham. He's going to be our guest on next week. And we're really, really looking forward to that. Get used to break down some of these positional battles that we're seeing in camp. And I want to thank Deuce for I call him Rev Deuce. I want to thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and he will be on with us next Tuesday night. And we invite everyone to come back and maybe learn a little bit. Oh, I will.
All right. Well, let's take the time then. I want to thank Matt, my son, for joining us tonight, and also our unofficial third host on the show, Bob Rose. Bob, what you got coming up in your columns this week? I know you've been profiling, not only doing a countdown with jersey numbers, but also you've been profiling individual players. What do you have coming up?
After what I did with Orlando Franklin, I'm not sure I'm going to be profiling another individual player for a while. But yeah, and thank you. We are at Canal Street Chronicles. We're doing a historical countdown of Saints jersey numbers from 99 countdown to 0 and 00. Both will be.
Oh, so we're going to do Ken Burrow and Obert was a safety for the original Saints, the 67 team. So good deal.
Both of those will be released on game day. I got to be honest with you guys. I'm sick of looking at numbers though. They're jamming my brain. Like I mentioned before, last week we previewed all the offensive positions as the Saints were leading into camp. And this week we're doing a defensive positional outlooks. Just released defensive tackles today. Defensive ends are going to be next, so on and so forth. And then by then we're going to be looking at preseason game breakdowns, breaking down what the Saints are doing and breaking down opponents. A lot of great writers. I've worked for a great boss, John Hendricks at Canal Street Chronicles. So hopefully you guys are following that as well.
All right. Well, as always, we can follow Bob at Canal Street Chronicles. Bob, what's your Twitter handle?
Twitter handle is at BOBBY26 BOBBYR 2613. So Bobby R 2613. Okay.
Now Matt doesn't write, but Matt, how can they follow you on Twitter if they want to follow you?
You can follow me at NFL Ulrich 17 on Twitter. And if you're on Under the Dome podcast Facebook group. In a bit, I'll probably post a few videos I have from Saturday's training camp. I did record some things. And I might try and share it on the group. I even have a couple live videos on my Facebook too, from the way early in the morning.
Good deal. Okay. Well, guys, thank y'all for being on. I wanted to get off because I have a feeling this time bomb's going to go off right at 9:30. We're at 9:28. So thank you guys for being on the show. And tune in next week for another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.